going to thank and excuse the following individuals. Badge number 336, Deanna Liu. Badge number 355, Delia Velez. And badge number 448, Renee Poole. Thank you. And Mr. Reed, would you please fill those seats?
Yes, sure. Next in seat number 5 will be badge number 452, Jeffrey Obershow. Seat number 10, badge number 453, Maxine Rohan. And seat 21, badge number 455, Jessica Garkomsky.
First row of you in the audience, I am going to run through those questions with you very quickly as well. Do any of you have any philosophical, religious, or other beliefs that you believe would prevent you from sitting as a juror? Show no response. Have any of you ever been in a situation with law enforcement in which you had a negative contact, where you felt like you weren't treated with the dignity and respect that you should have been treated by those officers? Showing no response. I'm sure, did everyone hear my question in regards to jurors taking notes and writing questions? All right, everyone's shaking their head yes. Is there anyone here who would be so bothered by the fact that their question didn't get asked that they would either take it out on one of the parties or they would feel like things were being hidden from them? Showing no response. Under our system, certain principles apply in every criminal trial. There are 3 of them. Number 1, the charging document filed in this case is merely an accusation and it is not evidence in any way of guilt. Number 2, the defendant in this case, Mr. Davis, is presumed innocent. And number 3, the state must prove that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Is there anyone here who has an issue with any of those 3 cornerstones of our Constitution and of our system, criminal justice system? Showing no response. Is there anyone here who would have trouble following the law, the jury instructions on the law that I give you, regardless of their personal feelings of whether or not they agreed with that law? Showing no response. Okay. All right, wonderful. So, Marcia O'Kelly, if you wouldn't mind handing it to the juror in seat number 1. We're going to take down some personal information for each of you in the first 32 seconds. So, your name and badge number, ma'am?
Christina Stewart, 304.
Thank you. So we're going to start with Ms. Stewart, badge number 304. Ma'am, how long have you lived in Clark County?
26 years.
And how far did you go in school?
The 12th grade.
Okay. Are you employed?
No.
And when was the last time you were employed?
97.
All right, and what did you do?
I was a housemaid.
Okay. And how long did you do that work for?
4 years.
Are you married, divorced, in a relationship?
Married.
And what does your spouse do?
He's retired.
What did he do before he was retired?
He worked in a hotel as a buyer, merchandise.
A buyer for what?
Food.
Okay.
Things for the hotel.
Any children?
No.
Have you ever been the victim of a crime? Anything from petty larceny to a pickpocket to robbery?
No.
No. Anyone close to you ever been the victim of a crime?
No.
And I should say that that includes crimes of a physical or sexual abuse nature. Anyone, you or anyone close to you.
No.
Have you or anyone close to you been accused of a crime?
I have a brother-in-law that was accused of molesting a young girl
All right, and how long ago was that?
back in the 90s.
Did you keep in touch with that process? Like, did you know what was going on?
No, I was living here in Nevada when that happened in California.
And what ended up happening with that case?
He's in prison right now.
All right. Do you have any personal feelings about that case, of whether it happened, whether he was treated fairly, etc.?
No, but it turns my stomach when I hear the young kids getting hurt.
Okay. Is there anything about your brother-in-law's case that you feel would prevent you from being fair and impartial?
I don't think I could do it.
Okay. Talk to me about that.
I don't know, I can't talk about it because it upsets my stomach.
All right.
It's painful.
Okay. So the way that I usually explain things like this, and hopefully it kind of breaks it down a little bit, is there are many things that individuals are charged with within our criminal justice system, like sexual assault or homicide or something like that, right? And those are, I don't think, nobody's out there saying I'm pro-sex assault or pro-homicide, right? I mean, I don't think anybody would say that. And these things are difficult to hear and difficult to listen to, but there's a spectrum. So some people on the spectrum is like, I don't really want to hear about it, these things bother me. And then there's another end of the spectrum is, I can't hear about it, I don't want anything to do with this, I cannot be a part of this, I cannot be fair. So where are you at on that spectrum?
I can't be fair. My heart's pounding.
Okay. All right, could you go ahead and pass the microphone to the next individual, please?
Kemi Jesme, 313.
Good afternoon. How long have you lived in Clark County?
It'll be 2 years in December.
And where were you before those 2 years?
Charlotte, North Carolina,
And how long were you in North Carolina for?
19 years.
How far did you go in school?
Associate's degree.
And what was that in? Excuse me.
Psychology.
Are you employed?
Yes.
And what do you do?
I'm IT for Apple.
And how long have you been doing that?
5 years.
Are you married, divorced, single, in a relationship?
Single.
Any children?
Yes.
Boys, girls, both?
Boys.
And their ages, please.
21, 21, 19.
All right. Are any of them employed full-time?
No.
Okay. Have you ever been, you or anyone close to you, ever been the victim of a crime, including crimes of physical or sexual abuse?
No.
You or anyone close to you ever been accused of a crime, including crimes of sexual or physical abuse?
No.
Have you ever been a juror before?
No, this is my first time.
Okay. Is there anything about the nature of this case, what you've heard thus far, that you feel would prevent you from being fair and impartial to either side?
No.
Can you base your verdict solely on the testimony that you hear and the evidence that is presented, and wait in informing your opinion until the case is ultimately submitted to you as a jury?
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Would you mind passing the microphone? Is that Mr. Hance?
It is,
Badge number 322.
correct.
Sir, how long have you lived in Clark County?
6 years.
And where were you before that?
Spokane, Washington.
And how long were you in Washington for?
Spokane, 10 years.
How far did you go in school?
A little bit of college.
And I had previously asked if you were employed. You're working in the casinos, correct?
Correct.
And what is your specific job title?
Special events rep.
Okay. Married, divorced, single, in a relationship?
Divorced.
And what did your spouse do when you were married?
She was a dog groomer.
All right. Any children?
Yes.
And could you give me the gender and the ages, please?
2 boys, 2 girls. The oldest girl is 19. Next is boy at 16, boy at 15, girl at 13.
The 19-year-old, is she employed full-time?
No.
Ever been the victim, you or anyone close to you, ever been the victim of a crime, including crimes of physical or sexual abuse?
While working security at a casino in Washington, I was the third person on the scene of an attempted carjacking.
Okay. So you were the third person on the scene, was the attempted carjacking, was it still going on?
It was.
All right. So you, at this point in time, because I know you stated you had worked for the police, but at that point in time, you were just security, correct?
Correct.
All right. Was there any physical violence towards you during that?
I got lucky, no.
Okay. How do you feel like that situation was handled by the police and investigated?
Good.
Is there anything about that situation that you feel would hamper your ability to be fair, in this case, to either side?
No.
Any other instances?
Nope.
You or anyone close to you been accused of a crime, including crimes of physical or sexual abuse?
No.
Ever been a juror before?
No.
Anything about the nature of this case that bothers you to the point where you feel like you wouldn't be fair and impartial?
No.
But can you base your verdict solely on the evidence that's presented, and wait in forming your opinion until the case is ultimately submitted to you and your fellow jurors to deliberate upon?
Yes.
Thank you, sir, I appreciate that. All right, Mr. Dickinson, badge number 330. Sir, how long have you been in Clark County?
17 years,
And how far did you go in school?
2 years of college.
Are you employed?
Yes,
And what is your job, sir?
I'm in the food service industry and I'm a new business manager.
And your fiance, what does that individual do for work, if any?
She works for a gaming company, one of the casino groups here in town.
Any children?
She has 3, a
Alright.
25-year-old son, 21-year-old daughter, and an 11-year-old son.
The 25-year-old and 21-year-old, are they employed full-time?
Yes,
Can you tell me what they do, please?
one is a recorder for an attorney for a firm, and the other one works for Giordano's Pizza.
Do you know if the one that is working in the firm, if that's a civil firm or a criminal firm?
I could not tell you that.
Okay. You or anyone close to you ever been the victim of a crime, including crimes of sexual or physical abuse?
No, just my house was broke into twice in Kansas City, so
When was that?
would have been like 94 and maybe 1997.
How did you feel like that was investigated with by the police officers involved?
I think they did all they could do.
Anything about that situation affect you in anywhere here?
No,
Any other instances?
no ma'am,
What about being accused of a crime, you or anyone close to you, including crimes of sexual violence?
no,
Ever been a juror before?
no, first time.
Anything about the nature of this case, of what you've heard so far, that you feel would prevent you from being fair and impartial?
No,
Can you decide, or can you base your verdict solely on the evidence presented in this case, and wait in forming your opinion until the matter is ultimately submitted to you and your fellow jurors for deliberation?
yes,
Thank you, sir, I appreciate that. All right, next, can I have your badge number, please?
It's 452. Jeff Oberschelp.
Thank you. All right. Sir, how long have you lived in Clark County?
10 years.
And how far did you go in school?
Bachelor's degree, marketing.
And are you employed?
I am
What is it that you do?
executive vice president.
All right. And are you, well, explain to me, you don't have to explain exactly the company, but just explain to me your job duties, like the field.
It's technology, and I run the client services division.
Married, single, divorced,
Married, 2 girls, 33 and 31.
and what does your spouse do?
She's a CPA.
And your girls, what do they do?
One's in sales, one's a veterinarian.
And do either of them have children?
They do not.
Ever been the victim or anyone close to you been the victim of any type of crime, including crimes of sexual abuse?
No.
What about, same question but in regards to accused?
No.
Ever been a juror before?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Was that here in Las Vegas?
Sorry.
Okay. Do you
It was Dallas, Texas,
All right.
and it was a armed robbery.
Were you the foreperson?
It was not.
Did the matter go all the way to verdict?
No, the guy pled.
Okay. Was there anything about that experience that made you feel you wouldn't be able to be fair in a similar situation?
No.
Anything about the nature of this case that makes you feel you wouldn't be able to be fair and impartial?
No, ma'am.
Can you base your verdict solely on the evidence that's presented here in the courtroom and wait in forming your opinion until the matter is ultimately submitted to you with your fellow jurors?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, I appreciate that. If you wouldn't mind passing it to Ms. Shaw. Badge number 346. Ms. Shaw, how long have you lived in Clark County?
20 years,
How far did you go in school?
1 year of college.
Are you employed?
Yes,
What is it that you do?
guest relations and training manager for a casino.
Married, in a relationship, divorced?
I'm widowed.
All right, I'm sorry. What was it that your spouse did when they were alive?
He was a banker.
And any children?
One son,
And how old is he?
52.
And you look good.
People think he's my brother, but he's my son. Thanks.
All right, so what does he do?
Well, he's not working right now. He had a heart attack.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. What was he doing before the heart attack?
He worked for a towing company,
What
supervisor, towing company.
company? Towing, okay. And does he have any children?
Yes, I have 3 grandsons,
All right, and how old are they?
23, 18, and 15.
The 23-year-old, is he full-time employed?
Yes,
What does he do?
works for a sign company.
All right. Have you or anyone close to you ever been the victim of a crime, including crimes of sexual or physical abuse?
No,
Same question, but in the accused. You or anyone close to you ever been accused of a crime?
no,
Ever been a juror before?
yes.
Can you tell me about that? Where was it?
In Seattle, Washington, when I lived there. It
How
was
long ago?
30 years ago. I don't remember much about it.
Do you remember if it was criminal or civil?
Criminal.
Do you remember what the charges were?
Not exactly. I don't.
Was it like a robbery or attempt murder?
No, it was robbery.
It was robbery.
Mhm.
All right. Were you the foreperson?
Yes.
You were the foreperson.
Yes, I was.
Okay. And without telling me what the verdict was, did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes.
Is there anything about that experience that you feel would impair you from being fair and impartial in this case?
No.
Is there anything about the nature of this case that makes you feel you wouldn't be able to be fair and impartial?
No.
Can you base your verdict solely on the evidence that's presented and wait in forming your ultimate opinion until the matter is formally submitted to you and your fellow jurors for deliberation?
Yes.
All right, thank you, I appreciate that. Let's move, is that Mr. Johnson? All right, thank you. Can we pass that down to him? He's badge number 349.
Correct.
Mr. Johnson, how long have you been in Clark County?
24 years.
All right, and how far did you go in school?
Bachelor. Construction management.
Right now, or that's what you were studying?
That's what I got a degree in.
All right, and are you employed?
Yes.
And what's your job?
I'm vice president of a construction company.
Married, divorced, single?
Married.
And what does your spouse do?
She's sick. She has 5 autoimmune diseases.
Okay. Has she ever been employed during the pendency of your marriage?
Yes, about 20 years ago.
And what did she do?
She was a landscaping estimator.
All right. Do you have any children?
1,
And how old is that?
35.
Female or male?
Male.
And does he have any children?
Yes, 2.
And
A 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
And what are their genders?
Boy and a girl.
Okay. And I apologize if I asked you, what does he do, your son?
He is director of real estate in Texas.
All right. You or anyone close to you ever been the victim of a crime, including crimes of sexual or physical abuse?
A home robbery about 8 years ago.
All right. Now, during that, were you home? Were you
No.
All right, so home burglary. And were the police called?
Yes.
And did they respond?
Yes.
Was anyone ever caught?
No.
How do you feel like that matter was dealt with or investigated by the police?
Wasn't handled at all.
Did that change the way your views in law enforcement in any way?
No.
Do you feel like that would affect you in any way here?
No.
Any other instances?
No.
Ever been accused, you or anyone close to you, of a crime?
No.
Ever been a juror before?
No.
Is there anything about the nature of this case, from what you've heard so far, that makes you feel you wouldn't be able to be fair and impartial to both sides?
No.
Can you base your verdict solely on the evidence that's presented and wait in forming your ultimate opinion until the matter is ultimately submitted to you with your fellow jurors?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Can I have your name and badge number, please?
441, Christine Escalambre.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Escobar, how long have you been in Clark County?
I was born and raised, so 28 years.
Okay. And how far did you go in school?
2 years college.
What were you studying?
I was studying business marketing.
And how are you employed now?
I am sole proprietor, business owner.
Okay. And what can you tell me a little bit about the business?
So I'm basically an influencer,
Oh, okay.
YouTube, Nintendo brand ambassador.
All right. Got it. How long have you been doing that for?
For 4 years, 4 or 5 years.
Are you married, single, in a relationship?
I'm in a relationship.
All right. And what does that individual do?
He's a nurse.
Any children?
No.
Ever been a victim of a crime?
No.
Anyone close to you ever been the victim of a crime?
No.
Excuse me. And I should be clear that that does include crimes of physical or sexual abuse.
No, not that I know of.
All right. Same question, but as the accused, you or anyone close to you.
No.
Have you ever been the juror before?
No.
Is there anything about the nature of this case that makes you feel like you wouldn't be able to be fair and impartial to both sides?
No.
And can you wait? Well, first of all, can you base your verdict only on the evidence that you see and hear in the courtroom? And can you wait in forming your opinion until the matter is ultimately submitted to you and your fellow jurors to deliberate?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. And your name and badge number, please?
Jeremy Failing, 354.
All right, Mr. Failing, how long have you lived in Clark County?
22 months.
And where were you before?
Elko, Nevada.
And how long were you in Elko?
7 years.
And then where before Elko?
I was in California, in Phelan, California. Phelan.
Okay. And how long were you there for?
3 years.
All right. I'm supposed to establish like a 10-year period, so that's why I'm asking like, and where were you before that? So what is the reason for the moving?
I moved from California to Elko for work,
Okay.
and then I moved from Elko to Henderson for work.
All right. And what is it that you do?
I work in IT. I'm a problem manager.
And how far did you go in school?
I went through an associate's degree.
Are you married, single? divorced?
I'm married.
And what does your spouse do?
She's a school teacher.
Do you have any children?
I have one daughter. She's 12.
You or anyone close to you ever been the victim of a crime, including crimes of sexual abuse?
No.
What about you or anyone close to you ever been accused of a crime?
My father has had trouble with the law. He was on probation. That's been probably 18 years ago.
How active would you say you were involved in that process when your father was going through that?
I lived with him while I was on probation,
Okay.
but that's it.
How do you feel like he was treated throughout the process, whether it be by the police or the criminal justice system?
I only have hearsay. I don't have anything direct knowledge of it.
And what type of crimes were they?
Drug related.
Okay. Is there anything about that situation with your dad that you feel would kind of bleed into here, keep you from being fair?
No.
Any other instances that I should be aware of? Anyone else?
I think that's it.
All right. Have you ever been a juror before?
Yes.
Tell me about that. Where was it?
It was in the San Bernardino County,
All right.
California, and it was a murder trial.
When was it? Like within the last 10 years?
Probably the last 12.
12. Okay. And without telling me what the verdict was a verdict reached?
Yes,
And were you the foreperson?
I was not.
Anything about that experience, and that job as a previous juror that you feel would impair you from being fair and impartial in this case?
No,
Anything about the facts or the nature of this case that you've heard thus far that you feel would prevent you from being fair and impartial?
no,
Can you base your verdict solely on the evidence that you hear and see in this courtroom and wait in basing your final opinion until you have the opportunity to discuss it with your jurors once the matter has been submitted to you?
yes.
All right, thank you, sir, I appreciate that. Ma'am, may I have your name and badge number?
Maxine Rohan, 0453.
Okay. Ms. Rowan, how long have you been in Clark County?
11 years.
And how far did you go in school?
I have a double master's in human resources and and psychology.
And are you employed?
Yes.
What do you do?
I work with Department of Veterans Affairs.
What do you do specifically within that department?
I'm a supervisor in a department that does authorizations for the veterans to go outside the VA for care.
Okay. Are you married, single, divorced?
Divorce.
And what did your spouse do when you were married?
He's now retired health inspector here in Nevada.
Any children?
3 boys.
3 boys. All right. Give me their ages and what they do if they're employed full-time, please.
48, 39, and 30.
And what do they do?
The oldest one is currently in jail, awaiting trial, and I'm not sure everything involved in that.
Okay.
The second one is a correction officer here at Metro, and the youngest works with Trump Towers here as security.
All right. Do you have any grandchildren?
I do.
All right.
I have 7.
You have 7. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me how many boys and how many girls?
3 boys and 4 girls.
And then you don't have to give me every age, but give me the age frame from the oldest. So
The oldest is 18, and the youngest, there are 2 sets of twins, and the youngest, they're 7,
Okay.
youngest girls.
So let's talk a little bit. We've already talked about your son. That's the corrections officer. Let's talk a little bit about your oldest son in jail.
Mhm.
So you state you don't know much about it.
No, I know he's in Pahrump,
Okay.
FBI, so,
Okay. Has your son been in trouble before, or is this his first time?
no, he's been in trouble before.
All right. Would you say, is this like a kind of a drug issue type situation?
I think it has to do something with pills.
Pills.
No.
All right. Is there anything about that situation with your son that you feel would prevent you from being fair?
No.
Do you have any feelings one way or the other of how either the police have treated him or how he's been treated throughout the criminal justice system?
No, I do not.
All right. You or anyone close to ever been the victim of a crime, including crimes of sexual abuse?
I have been.
All right. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I was molested as a child. Was about 7 years old.
And how long did that go on for?
I was kidnapped and molested, and so it just was that one day.
So,
I lived in the island in Jamaica at that time.
okay, so you were kidnapped by a complete stranger?
No, someone that I knew.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that individual took you?
Yes.
And you were molested, and this was a one-time occurrence for that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And then that person took you back home?
Just released me a few miles from my home.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Did you report this matter?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you report it right away or later?
It's a different system in Jamaica.
Okay.
It was reported, but nothing happened because the person just disappeared, just went away.
When you got home, was it a situation in which you told your parents right away?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
How do you feel like that was handled? When, I mean, you said he just got away.
Actually, what happened is I totally forgot about it for years until about 10 years ago. It was like a video replayed, and all of a sudden, I remembered everything to the moment, what I was wearing, to everything.
So, I mean, you remembered it after happening enough to tell your
But
parents.
yeah,
right?
but when it happened, no, they just really talked with me, and I think they took me to the doctor at that time to make sure I was going to be okay.
Okay. But ultimately, that individual wasn't.
No, ma'am.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel that, that you didn't receive justice for the wrongs that were committed against you?
No, I did not. But my parents handled it pretty well,
How do you feel that? Do you feel that that will impact you in any way in being able to be fair here?
No, I think I can be fair. I just find I'm more protected with my granddaughters, who they're around.
Sure.
And whether it's a family friend or not, it doesn't matter, no.
Okay. Any other instances where you've been a victim or anyone close to you've been a victim?
No, ma'am.
What about accused of any crimes?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Have you ever been a juror before?
No, ma'am.
And can you base your evidence solely on what is presented here in this courtroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything about the nature of this case and what you've heard so far that you feel would prevent you from being fair?
I'm not sure. I've never been confronted with this before, being a victim myself. So, to be honest, I couldn't answer that fairly because this would be the first time I've been in that position, ma'am.
Right. So, and you may have heard me speaking about it to one of the other jurors, but I almost feel like besides our common sense, we almost decide this in a vacuum, right? It's because we really can't listen to outside influences. We can't talk about it to other people. We have to base our opinions solely on what we hear the individuals testify to, and then what exhibits are allowed into testimony. And you have to be able to zero in on those and only form your opinion based on the evidence that's presented. Do you feel like that's something you could do?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then can you wait in forming your ultimate opinion until the matter is submitted to you as a whole as a jury?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Would you mind passing? Can I have your name again, sir?
John Barker. My badge number is 0356.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. How long have you been in Clark County?
Almost 4 years.
And where were you before that?
The Sultanate of Oman.
The what?
Kind of near Dubai. It's a 5-hour drive to Dubai.
Okay, all right. And why were you there?
I worked for a major oil company there as a safety advisor.
And how long were you there for?
For 2 years.
Okay, so because of your job, do you move around quite frequently?
At that time I did. I was in the Middle East for 5.5 years in various countries.
All right, and before the Middle East, where did you go? Where did you live?
Ventura County, California.
All right. And so tell me a little, well, first of all, how far did you go in school?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration, double option in Finance and Real Estate.
And so tell me a little bit about your job now.
Now I have actually a couple of jobs. I work 28 days on, 28 days off, offshore California on an oil platform. And I'm a safety representative there. And on my 28 days off, occasionally I work as a substitute school teacher for the Clark County School District.
All right. So married, divorced, single?
I've been divorced a couple of times, and I'm currently married for the last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first ex-wife, what did she do when you were married?
She was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second wife? What was she?
Second wife?
Yes.
She worked at a biotech company in California, and she was like a marketing representative.
All right, and then the
Current wife. She's a table games dealer here in Las Vegas.
Do you have any children?
Yes.
All right, and their gender, please.
You want all of them?
Yeah.
Okay. My oldest is my daughter is 37 years old, and she's married, and she's a comedian, scriptwriter in Hollywood, and her husband's also a comedian and does some stuff on the net. Next is I have a son that is 35, and his wife is a pediatrician. I have 3 children, so I have 3 grandchildren, ages 8 and 4 and 1. And then my next child is a daughter, and she is 32. And she is a, let me see. She's an entertainer, okay. She lives in New York, okay, no children. And then I have triplets that are 13 and a half years old from my second wife, one of which is autistic, nonverbal. The other 2 are typical. And then from my wife that I'm married to, we have a 6.5-year-old boy.
Okay. The 3 grandchildren that you referenced, are they boys or girls?
They're all girls.
All right. Ever been the victim of a crime?
Just minor. Somebody stole some things out of my car. No, it didn't require any police contact.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about accused of a crime? You or anyone close to you?
No.
Ever been a juror before?
Yes, a few times.
All right, so let's go with the first time. How long ago would you say that was? I don't have to have the year, but just give me ballpark.
Well, it was 1994, so.
Oh, okay, so you know.
Yeah.
All right, and where was that at?
It was actually a federal jury duty in Los Angeles, California, and I had a 3-month commitment to.
Was it grand jury or jury?
I was selected for grand jury, but I didn't win the lottery for that, which was good. That's a 2-year commitment. So they bumped us all to just regular federal jury duty.
Okay. And so were those criminal matters that you oversaw or civil?
Both.
Okay. And then, so forgive me because we probably do it differently here. So when you said as a federal, did you hear multiple trials within those 3 months?
Yes.
All right.
And actually, I never served on a jury. I went through the selection process, but was never actually, I got disqualified a number of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you ever actively served?
Yes, in Ventura County Superior Court.
And when was that?
That was probably 13 years ago.
And criminal or civil matter?
That was, criminal was like a misdemeanor criminal matter.
Okay. And without telling me what the verdict was a verdict reached?
Yes.
And were you the foreman?
No, I was not.
Have you been a juror another time? Or was that it?
That was the only time I was selected, yes.
Is there anything about the nature of this case that you feel would prevent you from being fair and impartial?
I don't think so, yeah.
Okay. Can you base your verdict solely on the evidence that you hear and see in the courtroom?
Yes.
And can you wait in forming your ultimate opinion until the matter is ultimately submitted to you to discuss with your fellow jurors?
Yes.
All right, thank you, I appreciate that. And if you wouldn't mind passing that, is it Mr. Blomgren?
Yes.
How long have you been in Clark County, sir?
Most of my life.
And how far did you go to school?
High school.
Are you employed?
Yes.
What do you do for work?
Security at the Mirage.
How long have you been doing that?
This will be my year in 2 days.
Okay. What did you do previous to security?
Security and a martial arts instructor.
And married, divorced, single?
Relationship.
And what does that individual do?
She's a daycare teacher.
Any children?
One on the way.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Boy or girl?
Not sure yet. We find out in October.
All right. Ever been the victim of a crime, or anyone close to you ever been the victim of a crime, including crimes of sexual abuse?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
My fiance. She was 11. She was living in Jamaica and she was sexually assaulted.
Did she report that matter to the?
No, I'm the only one that she talked about it with.
So she's never told anyone else besides you?
No.
Did you ever talk to her about why she never told anybody?
She said that she wasn't sure. Like, she said she was scared.
Is there anything about that situation with your fiance that she's told you about that you feel would affect you any way here?
No.
Any other instances you or anyone close to you been the victim of a crime?
No.
What about accused of a crime, you or anyone close to you?
No.
Ever been a juror before?
Nope.
Anything about the nature or the facts of this case that you've heard thus far that you feel may prevent you from being fair and impartial to either side?
No.
Can you base your verdict solely on the evidence presented to you and wait in forming your opinion until the matter is ultimately submitted to you and your fellow jurors?
Yes.
All right. You guys, we're going to take a quick 10-minute break to give you a chance to stretch your legs and use the restroom. During the recess, you're admonished not to talk or converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected to this trial, or read, watch, or listen to any report of or commentary on the trial of any person connected with this trial by any medium of information, including without limitation to newspapers, television, the internet, and radio, or form or express any opinion on any subject connected with this trial until the case is finally submitted to you. So one thing that jurors or potential jurors sometimes get confused about is you're not allowed to talk to anybody, right, about what's going on in here. That includes with each other, so you can't say anything about this case, even to one another. Once you're ultimately selected as jurors, it still is that way. You can't discuss anything about this case until you are ultimately in the jury deliberation room and the case is completely over. So please keep that in mind, and I'll see you back in 10 minutes at 4:10. Make sure you know where you're sitting, because that'll be the spot you go back to.
You may have a new buddy next to you, so now look at that person, because that's how we're going to line up. Okay? Gain new buddies. All right, yes, it is a prospective juror.
I'll do that right now. Got it. Got it. Thank you. Yes, of course. No, that's fine. Just 1 second. I want to put something on the record. Okay. So, Mr. Davis, there were a few times that I found you to be really pushing the envelope and very disrespectful. You're not going to swear in here. You're not going to converse with the jurors when they're up here. If I say to you, do you have a question, then you can ask them a question. Other than that, there should not be any communication with the jurors. Also, you cannot be saying things like, the prosecutor's doing this, the state's doing this, I'm by myself, I just got yelled at the bench. Those are completely improper to do. This jury is to decide the case on its merits. So they will listen to witnesses, they will listen to opening statements, they will listen to closing arguments. But you're not going to just get to talk to them whenever you want or whenever things don't go your way. That's completely improper. If it was an attorney that did something like that, I would have really been unhappy. So are there any questions you have on things you can and cannot do? Because this is your warning. I won't allow conduct like that ever again.
Yeah, I have no idea what I can't do. So when I do something something, obviously, I don't know, I can't do it. I mean, they didn't give me, I didn't get a lawyer rule book.
Okay, but this is why when I canvassed you during Feretta, I told you about all these types of things, that you would be held to the same standard that a lawyer would be held to, and you still chose to represent yourself. In doing that, I'm going to hold you to the standard that an attorney would be held to. So you don't get to make statements about, I just got in trouble because I don't know what I'm doing. You're the one who chose to represent yourself.
I didn't say I didn't get in trouble because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Yeah. You said, I just got, I don't think you said.
About the case, I got in trouble
Yelled
with the
at
case.
at the bench.
Not yelled at, it
I didn't
was
say yell.
lectured.
Scolded.
Scolded. I just got scolded at because I don't know what I'm doing. Number one, what happens at the bench is between us up here. That's the reason why we do it up at the bench. You didn't get scolded. And number two, you can't say to them, I don't know what I'm doing, or I was forced to represent myself, because none of those things are true. So just make sure that when you're in front of the jury, you're behaving in a manner that is going to allow the jurors to decide this case on the merits. So no more side chatter, no more taking digs at the state. Ms. Collins is going to be held to the same standard that you are. Got it?
I mean, Your Honor, she's a DA, she's been here like 20 years. I mean,
And you have the right
how
to.
can I be
you
held to the same standards as a DA that's been in this court that's familiar with the
Because when you choose to
for 20 years?
because when you choose to represent yourself, then you are treated just like any other attorney, which is what I explained to you during the Feretta campus.
I understand that, Your Honor, but not knowledge of courtroom procedures should not be a strike against me.
Well, it is. You think that it's not? Is it not common knowledge that you shouldn't be swearing?
I don't consider it as a swear.
Okay.
I mean,
All right. Well, now you're on notice that it